Given Zeta takes place after Advance of Zeta, I am so baffled as to why they made the Mark II so much more underwhelming compared to its past self, let alone the fact that the Titan should have all the test data from the millions of confusingly named forms of the Gundam TR-1, but not making any extensions for the Mark II to rival the predecessor's millions. Yes, I know that the Buck somehow gave birth to many of the Titan's mobile suits designs, but the Mark II is narratively an downgrade. What is going on, guys? MJ2005 Gundam here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the high-grade Gundam Mark II Revive A.E.U.G version from Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. So, here is the kit itself straight from the box with all stickers applied and, weirdly enough, fully armed. But I am giving this away to a friend who is immigrating soon, so to cover as much ground as I could, here is everything untampered from the straight build. And the design is just like any old high grade of the time, perfectly replicated with outstanding color separation, apart from the weapons, with the bodily stickers only covering the head cameras, front and back, the eyes, and the sensors on the chest armor. There are also silver stickers under the eyes like every other Gundam of its time for those of you who would like to outline the eyes, but this build structure is discontinued, hinting that this may not have been the best idea, and that the clear eyepiece is in more of a teal instead of the green that the eyes are supposed to be in. But with this being a gift to an immigrating friend, I touched it up with panel lining and a top coat, and I could confidently tell you guys that there aren't too many lining details on the body as I have finished it within half an hour. But it is still worth sinking your panel lining marker into the details if you bought this version, as it does look bare without them. There is still one seam line on the head, but it is very easily dismissible, especially if you put on his headphones. And you'll still need to paint in the red in the thrusters of the backpack, but otherwise it looks nice for what it is, especially when touched up. Side note, even though this kit is produced with universal standards and this kit comes with a surprise face in the back with a double hole compatibility, the backpack is a slide lock, so you can't necessarily use the backpack with any other kit. Articulation starts with a ball joint and a neck joint in the head, so yes, this thing doesn't use a polycap neck joint, so you can go this far up, not too much down, side to side as possible, but yeah, thanks to the matte coating, it's going to be a little bit tough. Same thing goes for the rotation. It can theoretically rotate 360 if you're doing equipment with the earmuffs. And of course, a chicken neck is semi-possible, but yes, thanks to the coating, everything is just too tightened up. Now the arms over here can swivel up very far thanks to the polycap in there. You don't even need to couple it with the ball joint in the socket to roll it around to allow it to go up a lot. Now the shoulder doesn't have any panels, but the arm still can't go out completely perpendicularly, but couple it with the shoulder joint and you will see it can also rotate all the way around. They can rotate above the elbow with the intrusive hardpoint down there. They can bend at the elbow at two joints, a complete flat out 180 if it weren't for the shoulder armor, but still very good nonetheless. And the wrists are on ball joints. And now the torso and waist is interesting because it does have a ball joint in the torso itself, so it can do a pretty good forward crunch. There is barely anything backwards unless you plan to unplug the ball joint in the bottom. You can of course rotate it, but the armor does get in the way, so it's a very limited degree of rotation. Now the front skirts can be separated without any ill effects. I don't know if that's due to the matte coating or not. Side skirts can be moved out with the polycap. The back skirts are as usual stationary, but there is also this flap over here to flip out the bazooka storage. Now the legs themselves, they can do the funky dance, I think, but it's really hard to get access to, maybe due to the coating, I don't know. And the legs can go forwards, not much back, almost all the way outwards, rotation at the hip, a double jointed knee that doesn't really provide too much beyond a 90. The flap over here cannot move, in fact nothing in the legs moves. Now the ankles over here can move forwards very far, Michael Jackson lean be damned, go backwards to reveal the pistons over here that are stationary but a decent detail to have, and go side to side and rotates along the ball joint, and there's no flip flow action. And finally the ankle armor can be moved just like so because it's jointed towards the pegs on the side. Now the backpack over here, the only thing that moves is these prongs over here, and you can just shift them up and down, and as you can see the pipes do move along with these prongs over here, and because they are on ball joints you can also move them forward and back, just roll them around, and the thrusters do not move. Articulation in the Gundam Mk-II is definitely outstanding, and while I would have asked for a little bit more in the legs, especially the knee bend, there is no use nitpicking because it is already up to modern day standards. For weapons, you firstly get the beam sabers. They are stored onto the back and can be plucked out easily enough. You can simply stick the included SB13 beams into the hole and pose it to your liking. Next up, we have the Vulcan earmuffs with the green sticker for the scope. They have missing red details that require painting, and small tabs that go into the slits on the side of the head. And while the snazzy headphones aren't made with flexible plastic, they're flexible enough to be safely slid onto the head so the Mk-II can finally truly listen to smooth jazz among other music. Furthermore, you have the beam rifle. You'll need to paint in the dark gray on the body of the rifle, and you do have a green sticker for the scope and a movable foregrip. It can be stored onto the side skirts with the tabs on the stock, or be sandwiched into the hand for use. Alternatively, for ranged options, you have the bazooka. You'll need to paint in the white barrel and the black body, but a green sticker for the scope and a movable handle are included. Weirdly enough, the tabs on the ammo clip allow the bazooka to be stored onto the side skirts, but there is an opening panel on the butt for you to properly store the bazooka, and the handlebar on top hitches onto the top of the basket to secure it in place. Sandwich it into the hand and adjust the handle for use. Finally, you have the shield. While most of the details are colored pieces, you still get the yellow triangles as stickers. You can split it in half and shorten it by plugging the lower half into the red slot on top, but I don't quite recall when the Mk-II actually did that. And there are two adapters to plug the shield onto the arm. One is the usual bracket to have the shield onto the side, while the other is a peg-to-peg adapter to plug the shield onto the underside. Well, I do like how they are both adjustable by rotating them on the peg, and how there is no ugly peg on the bracket for the alternative configurations. I dislike how there is one more piece to keep track of and stress about before you put it in the Ziploc. For comparisons, here is the Mk-II with its real-life predecessor, and you can tell they have tried to stick to their roots when designing the Mk-II for the Zeta Gundam series. Next up, we have its actual predecessor, the Gundam TR-1 Hazel Custom, and that is when they tried to design backwards and differ the design from the roots. They look so similar, yet drastically different. Moving on, here we have the TR-6 Woundwort, the partner from its previous life. Finally, we have the Zeta Gundam here, just to semi-complete the Gundam team. But yeah, I'm still missing the higher Universal Sentry Hyakushiki. Moving on to the miscellaneous stuff, judging from the construction between the high-grade build Gundam Mk-II and this one, it is not possible to completely make a build Gundam Mk-II revive. But you can still plug on the build booster Mk-II onto the back by removing this cap to reveal a single hole. So you can customize the Mk-II even with a normal backpack on. Please just make a G defensor so we can make the Super Gundam. Oh wait, it is mechanically possible judging from the instructions, but I still want a separate one so I don't have to hunt down a high grade Super Gundam for that. And there is some advanced Zeta stuff you can do with this. For, let's say, letting the TR-1 hold the rifle and equip the shield to mechanically form a form of the Hazel Auzla from Advanced Zeta Reboot. But my Auzla parts are stolen for a custom build, so I cannot make the exact thing. Moreover, you can bring in the TR-6 with the expansion parts, check out that review to check out their nooks and crannies if you haven't, equip it with the double booster pod on the back and the Mk-II shield to create a form of the TR-6 Hazel II minus the custom beam rifle it has in the art and the Hazel Auzla parts it used because mine were used elsewhere. You can also plug on the connector piece so that the shield is compatible with the shield connectors of the Hazels. To wrap things up, the first major point is it is cheap and great. Now, I don't have any ground to stand on talking about the real grade just because I never owned one, but the high grade here is definitely the better option if you want a good 1-to-144 scale Gundam Mk-II for cheap. Plus, you can mess around with the weapons all day, albeit it being the generic loadout. Secondly, it takes customization into account. Needless to say, the body parts are compatible with most high-grade kits using the modern universal standard, so you can steal them for customization, but I still like the fact that they implemented double holes in the back despite the backpack not connecting as such, and even a hard point onto the backpack to accommodate for extensions, the G defensor. So even with the slightly different engineering, Bandai still allowed the Gundam Mk-II to be compatible with parts for custom builds, and I do appreciate that. Finally, it is not that remarkable. If it weren't for this being a simple and cheap kit for a gift, I would never have given this thing any consideration, let alone over its past self. If only we have a modernized high-grade G defensor, despite the old one being mechanically compatible judging from the instructions alone, or a high-grade Mk-II build custom kit that uses this instead of the old one, then I may consider adding this to my collection. Otherwise, despite the 7 out of 10 mark I'm giving it, it's just not special enough to compel me, but I would recommend it to those who like to have one to complete your revived high-grade Gundam team. So that basically wraps it up for my high-grade Universal Century Gundam Mk-II Revive review. Tell me in the comments below what you think, and thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did like it, please be sure to drop a like, comment, and also subscribe for more gunplay reviews, gunplay news, and all that kind of stuff. Turn on notifications for future content alerts if you haven't, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy, and peace out.